very shortly. So, and we are off, and into Caneria we go. Let's take a look at that white and black magic. Well, we get our sweeping spell in Lit 2 and Edge Temper available at slot 1. That's got to be pretty good for both runners.
Yeah, especially, you've got Lit 2, your early AoE, and then you're going to basically switch over to whatever else you've got in that slot. I'm curious to see what the white magic is. Gregglypuff bringing the white mage, and early fade would justify it pretty nicely, but we haven't gotten a good look at that yet.
Yeah, I didn't take a peek at it either. Elastoid is already running northward towards the Temple of Fiends to go ahead and visit Garland and take care of the beginning of the game. Gregglypuff right behind him. We're going to have 3 chests on the left side of Temple of Fiends that our runners are going to be able to pick up some resources. Elastoid is headed in that direction now.
All right, Elastoid gonna throw out a Lit 2 against this ghoul, so 1 more charge to go. And down goes the red mage, so this is gonna be a little rough.
Both runners now heading back towards the front of Temple of Fiends to go ahead. Elastoid running into a pack of wolves, Rururu, for those of you that are fans of the wolves. And over to Garland he goes now. Only 2 party members left, but he does have a charge of Lit 2. Off it goes, 45 damage. And now we're going to have to swing Plink at Garland here bit by bit.
Yeah, that's... Oh, that is an unenviable situation. Elastoid's just going to reset out and try it again. Higher Lit 2 roll is definitely possible, but yeah, it looks like both runners are having a bit of problem getting through this. Garland looks like he's been to the gym today.
Gregglypuff gets through Garland, grabs that loot, and grabs his bridge. And he'll head back now down to Caneria. Let's see if he takes a peek back into the white magic shop and picks anything up here.
Yeah, I think now... Ooh, we've got Harm 4, which is nice to have for any marsh or ice cave dives, but little out of the price range. So we'll see what Greggly decides to do.
Elastoid is going to give this a 3rd attempt now on Garland. We've got a little bit of a roadblock here with just these 2 members. There's a charge of Lit 2 for 116 damage, taking Elastoid down. So Invis also sitting in the 4th slot of level 1 for white magic. But then, so with Harm 4 early Edge, does that put perhaps like a pop grind on the table for you?
I don't like pop grind in a lot of situations. I think the only time I would be willing to do it is if there's a floater in Provoca and I need the money to buy it. I feel like, especially with this flag set, you can get all the levels that you need as you go through the game, and there really isn't a need to grind.
So Gregglypuff has opened up a lead of about a minute or so due to the Garland roadblock that Elastoid ran into a little bit. We will see if that lead holds as Elastoid now goes ahead and buys a little bit of resources with that 600 gold that he has. Gregglypuff is going to go ahead and take a peek at Matoya. There are 3 chests here for Matoya on the left side. Let's see what we have available for Matoya. A house, so that's a nice saving item. And lo and behold, there's one of our progression items, the TNT, which the Dwarf Narek down at the bottom of Dwarf Cave is going to want. So that's a nice find for Gregglypuff. That will break open access out of the Inner Sea here.
Of note is that gigantic gold chest that he found. I think it was about 50k, so he should be pretty good for about the rest of the game.
There's a nice swing and a connect for Gregglypuff. Gets his party up to level 3 now. Elastoid closing in, though, making up some time here.
Yeah, and definitely coming up here is what Elastoid needed to do to catch up. Just 50k treasure chest. That's you can get a lot of mileage out of that, both in equipment and in spells.
3 sets of angry mad ponies now for Gregglypuff on the screen. Runs away from those successfully. From a encounter table perspective so far, Edge, I have not seen a whole lot in the way of nice gaps in this encounter table that these runners are going to be able to manipulate much.
There's been a lot of encounters up front, other than Elastoid's run up to Matoya's cave, so probably going to need to invest heavily in save items, just tents, cabins, leave them all over the overworld, reset out of encounters.
Gregglypuff is first to provoke. There will be 4 black magic spells, 4 white magic spells sitting in level 2. We're going to take a peek at white magic first, and we have Cure 4, Wall, and Ruse. So that white mage is going to be relatively useful. Taking a peek at black magic now. There's Nuke at level 2 alongside Bane and Stop. The black mage and the red mage are going to be very happy to find that spell. The red mage for Elastoid. If you only get 3 choices there, Edge, what do you think? What 3 spells are you going to pick up?
Cure 4, Nuke, and probably Wall.
Elastoid went for the money first, and the money's being held by the pirates. Picks that up, and we'll go ahead and grab his ship.
And Greg's going to check out the armor shop.
Cheap chain armor. That's always very nice to see early in the game.
So of note, Cure 4 and Wall both learnable by the Knight as well. So a Knight with Cure 4 is definitely a wrecking ball in Topher. Just have to see how the gear shakes up. But it's a very, very good white magic level for promoted.
So Elastoid will be able to take advantage of that with his party composition. He's already going to have a little souped up EXP with just 3 party members to Gregglypuff's 4, and Gregglypuff rolled the dice on the black belt. So we will have to see whether or not Elastoid's able to press that advantage with that Cure 4 down the stretch. It's wonderful to have everybody with us here on Speed Gaming 2 on a Tuesday evening. You are watching the Final Fantasy Randomizer Highlander Tournament, which is a pretty unique tournament for our community. In that the runners that you are watching this evening get to select the flags themselves and challenge each other from a predetermined pool of settings. This was Elastoid's evening to go ahead and select settings for tonight, as we see Life 2 in the white magic shop. We'll take a peek in the black magic shop for level 3. And we've got Ice 3, Saber as well. And so Elastoid threw down the gauntlet, and we are going back to something pretty close to vanilla Final Fantasy. Vanilla enemies and bosses, vanilla map, vanilla end goal. We've got a little bit of a souped up XP on the table for you tonight. And an open party that we've seen so far as well. Now we're taking a peek at level 4 black magic. Life 2 was sitting back there in level 3. Edge, I didn't see what slot it landed in. Was it in an important slot?
It was in number 3, so Knight gets Cure 4 and Life 2. So that is, you couldn't ask for a better Knight seed.
So we're getting into the territory where Elastoid might even be able to think about dropping one of his other party members as well and running with a 2-man. Is that feasible in Vanilla Temple of Fiends Revisited?
It sure is, especially if you have the knight with life too. Just it's the issue is sort of the magic resistance. But if you decide to roll with a 2-man, the magic resistance is certainly going to be there and higher than you normally would. Higher than it normally would be for a 4-man party. So yeah, 2-man entirely doable.
Wrigglypuff takes his side trip over to Dwarf Cave to go ahead and cash in that TNT. So that is done for him. Elastoid now having departed Elfland and done a little bit of shopping, is going to go ahead and leave Elfland at this point. Edge, I feel a little bit sad. I'm a little concerned we might not see Marsh Cave today.
Well, I mean, the items could end up in there, so don't lose hope. It's entirely possible. But for now, looks like Wrigglypuff is... I wonder if he's going to take the long way around and visit Elfland at the southern dock.
You know, there's a good reason to do that as well. You can take a quick peek into the top floor of Earth Cave if you wanted to do so. There are several chests there that you can go ahead and pick up on that first floor, grab some easy money or some resources, especially if you don't feel like you have enough to buy everything you're going to want once you get to level 3 and level 4 magic shops in Elfland. I see Artea in chat, and Artea, I know, is known to dive into Earth Cave a little bit earlier than some other competitors would. And so I know that's a strategy I've seen him do from time to time.
I think it's just a matter of do you feel comfortable enough to dive the more lucrative dungeons, at the levels you're at when Earth Cave is on the table. It's the same way with Marsh Cave, for example. Do you... the Ice Cave may be incentivized in a certain flag set, but you're at level 5 and you can't really do anything against a giant group of ghosts. Well, time to dig out Marsh Cave and get some levels.
And here goes Elastoid out of the Inner Sea now, heading toward Melmond. So we will get to take a glance at the white and black magic shops here. Well, maybe not the white magic, because Elastoid doesn't have much use for that at this point. There's Fast and Quad X, and so the black magic in this game has fallen very favorably for both of these runners. Not a whole lot sitting there in white magic, but we pretty much found everything we're looking for in white magic at this point anyways.
Yeah, a lot of it Red Mage and Knight learnable, so pretty favorable to Elastoid's party composition, right?
So we move out of the opening act of this Final Fantasy seed, and we move now toward the second act, where our runners are going to either have to dive some mid-game dungeons. We're looking at Ice Cave, we're looking at Volcano. Once we grab the canoe here, Ordeals is open. You could even do an early Earth Cave if you wish to do so. So there's several different options for our runners at this point. Edge, what do you think is the most popular, and what would you, where would you go first in the situation that our runners are in right now?
Like I said, it all depends on the flag set. But for this particular run, I would be clearing out Volcano. Ice Cave tends to be really nasty, particularly with vanilla enemies, and so that's just at level 6. That's not going to cut it. Volcano might be tough at level 6 anyway with vanilla enemies. The Argoyles with Fire 2 and the Fire Hydrants with Cremate, they don't play nice either, but it's a heck of a lot nicer than Ice Cave.
Elastoid picks up his canoe, which unlocks all of that progression. And it looks like we might take a peek here for some saving items. Houses available at 3,500. Cabin's at 235. That's a nice cheap pickup there. You'll be able to grab some saving items. Don't want to leave without a couple houses though as well, especially if you're planning on sticking around for a while. Greggly Puff, hiding in a marsh here. What direction are we going? And lo and behold, it looks like we're going to Marsh Cave. Awesome.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily, like I said, I don't necessarily mind this either. Other than the ambush rates, Greggly Puff should have all the tools he needs to deal with Marsh Cave and come out of here with a few extra levels. I don't mind the volcano dive either, but like I said, the enemies are going to be nastier, and it's going to be you may take a death or two in there. Just as long as it doesn't take you the amount of time it takes Greggly to finish Marsh Cave, not necessarily a bad decision.
So Greggly Puff is rolling the dice a little bit and looking for a progression item or something important and valuable in those 13 chests here in Marsh Cave that he can reach. Elastoid decided to avoid this dungeon, and so we will see whether or not Greggly finds something that breaks the game in his favor.
Yeah, any key item, any of the more valuable items like a defense sword, a spellcasting item, maybe a Masmian. Get a lot of mileage out of that.
Elastoid playing with the Hydras and Ochos, which are evil in any randomized seed, not just vanilla. Takes a big wallop out of his party, so he's going to start to dip into those resources already before he gets to the volcano.
There's a power gauntlet.
And so that's huge for Greggly Puff, especially with the party that he has. That power gauntlet's going to be very useful for that black belt.
Yeah, it may not be as valuable with plentiful temper, but it's still you can still get some use out of it for sure. Question in chat, they are running with weapon fixes on? Yes, that's correct. A heal staff, some gold for Greggly Puff, and it's going to walk all of this out. Can't say I blame him. Elastoid did a pretty good job of picking encounters on the way out of... on the way through the river, so he is at a pretty decent level right now.
Elastoid now dives into Volcano and is going to start to work on these strong enemies, stronger enemies than Greggly Puff's going to run into. There are several chests here available, including here the one in the switchback path. Double fires now. These are vanilla enemies with vanilla strength, but you still do not want to mess with them. And so out come the nuke charges, and down go the two fires. Already looking at level 11 for Elastoid, so he's on his way. Picks up a coral sword for his efforts.
Yeah, so he's at a level 11 right now, but he still has to make it out, and a pack of Argoyles is just going to ruin his day if he doesn't get good turn order. So still not out of the woods yet, but making pretty good progress so far. And yeah, I would definitely heal up to full if I was in his shoes.
So that fighter already has 300 HP. It's the mages are the ones that you need to really be concerned about here. And we're already starting to run a little bit low. Oh, hello, Squint. There's Paralisks being their vanilla selves. Relatively thankfully, it was the black mage that took that Squint. Here come the Argoyles now. Gets away from that encounter.
Yeah, the fire 2 rolling a little lower than normal. The magic resistance on mages in the early game is absolutely awful. So, and oh yeah, here's some scorpions.
Greggly Puff, meanwhile, working his way through the bottom side of Marsh Cave now for these chests, has not found a whole lot that I noticed that was too exciting down here. So it looks like just Power Gauntlet or Power Bonk so far. He's got a couple chests to check here yet.
There's a Zeus Gauntlet as well. One of those items that's nice to find anyway, but much nicer when you're running two-man strats. Anytime you can put a spellcasting item on a normally a melee class, it's just really, really convenient. And Gregory Puff's just going to reset that out. So instead of walking the Zeus Gauntlet out, it says no thanks.
Elastoid still working on the armory floor here. Ran into some Paralisks, and I saw some eye-popping Ice 3 charges. One went off for, I think, 408 damage, which is pretty awesome to see. We're going to go now down into the armory proper to see what's available here. Gregory Puff making his way back over to Elfland. Should be headed over in this direction shortly.
And so the big payoff for Volcano is this room right here. Just a massive chests. It's pretty rare that you don't find something at least useful here. So even something along the lines of an ice sword would be a welcome sight.
That is something our runners are missing so far. I think the nicest sword we have seen thus far come out of a chest is, I think I saw Coral Sword, and that's about it. You can probably pick up a Silver Sword somewhere if you need one, but that's not going to cut it, even in Vanilla Temple of Fiends Revisited, with all of the tempers of charge or the charges of temper and fast they're going to have.
And right now it just looks like a giant pile of money, but there is a white shirt. So not a complete waste, but with Night Learnable Ruse, the white shirt, not as critical, but still nice to have.
So we're in the opening stages of this Final Fantasy Randomizer Highlander Tournament, and this is one of soon-to-be 3 different tournaments that are going to be running here in the Final Fantasy Randomizer community. Tonight we're doing the Highlander Tournament where the runners get to pick their flags. We have the Chaos Rush Tournament also in participation. That is pretty much the polar opposite of what you're watching tonight. It's fast, it's crazy, the settings are built for speed. And then our spring tournament, if you're interested in joining that, is about to start rolling in about 2 or 3 weeks. And so signups are being taken for that now. It's going to feature shuffling of entrances, floors, and towns throughout the entirety of that tournament. And so if you like Final Fantasy Randomizer, you're going to have a whole lot of streams and action to watch here over the next couple of months.
So there's a question in chat. What is Quad X? That is a spell that will instantly kill any enemy under 300 HP as long as they don't resist the death element. So with vanilla enemies, that's super useful to have because you know exactly how much HP everyone has. 301. Got it. It's sorry. I used the wrong comparison operator.
Edge and Artea, SRL's number 1 and 2 respectively, correcting each other live on stream for all of us to watch. Gregory Puff finding Exit and Fade, now sitting at level 6 in White Magic. For the White Mage, that's useful for both of those if we can get the levels for level 6, but I don't know if we're going to have a whole lot of time for that this evening.
With the experience the way it is, getting some fade charges is not out of the realm of possibility, but again, it's one of those things where is having 2 or 3 fade charges and access to exit at the end of the game worth more than just doing a 3-man party.
Elastoid finding Adamant in one of the chests here in the volcano. Adamant will be cashed in for the Excalibur, and that's definitely a nice endgame weapon that Elastoid could use to go ahead and finish this off, assuming we find the tail so that we can class change.
Yeah, certainly one of the nicer endgame options to find. Just with weapon fixes on, kind of falls a little bit short in Temple of Fiends quite often, but with vanilla stats, should be able to make it through the game just fine.
Thorhammer picked up for Elastoid. That'll cast Lit 2, and he immediately puts that in the first slot for the fighter to be able to use.
So Thorhammer, going to get a lot of mileage out of that in Sea Shrine for sure.
Fresh off of his Marsh Cave dive, Grigglypuff now joining Elastoid in the volcano. As Elastoid takes our first look at the Agama, that's a double nuke that was 337 damage, so we're not quite sure. Oh, and there's a crown, which is a required progression pickup here in Vanilla. We'll need to get that so that we can go find the Mystic Key. And the question begins now, Edgeworth. Is the floater key locked somewhere?
If so, certainly you're certainly going to want to check it out. But at this point, the key chests are some of the easiest chests to check out. So probably no reason to not cash in the crown and see what's in the treasury, even though you're doing it by boat.
So assuming that both of our runners safely get the crown out of here, Edgeworth, and that there are the floater is not found here, for example, in the Red Dragon chest or something, order of operations starts to come into play. You could go cash the crown immediately, and I've done that several times, where I'm like, okay, I found a progression item, let's go check the key lock chests, but you're going to do it by boat, and it's going to take a while. Ice Cave is also on the table. You could be sassy and go check ordeals if you wanted. From an order of operations perspective, where would you go, or what would you do at this point?
I would definitely check the key lock chests, and it's just because anything that you can find in there would make finishing Ice Cave a lot easier. Just I mean, the sorcerers with trance and death touch are bad enough. The ghosts with paralysis are bad enough. But if you can find a ribbon, gives you a chance against blizzard and frost getting thrown in your face. So just anything that you can do to kind of help increase the survivability. Oh, there's a ruby, but help increase the survivability of your life caster, I think, is a good move.
Wow, that's another interesting find now for Elastoid, and the options just continue to open for Elastoid, because now the specter of a ruby-locked floater also comes into play. And so maybe that actually helps Elastoid's decision-making here, because you could go ahead and see what Sarda is hiding with the rod, which opens up Earth Cave. These runners are going to have several decisions to make here shortly.
Yeah.
We're peeking in on Carrie at this point. What are we worried about? Oh, I'm sorry, not Carrie. It's Team Rocket, everyone.
In Team Rocket, I think knows Blaze and Fire too. So yeah, there's going to be some nasty AOE coming out here. Yeah, Elastoid definitely enjoying his sprite edits here.
Meowth, that's right. But we'll see how Team Rocket deals with several nuke blasts to the face. And down goes the first fiend of fire, or rocket, if you prefer. And now Elastoid's decision making needs to come into play here. So we will see what Elastoid decides, and apparently he's going to run in circles for a little bit, looking to burn off some encounters. Grigglypuff, about 3 minutes behind or so at this point, 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how quickly he clears out the volcano here.
Yeah, he is basically a marsh cave dive behind, and well, that's a gamble that he made with full realization that if he didn't find anything, it was going to hurt. So be interesting to see how he decides to make up time, because the black belt is the one character that likes to eat time and turn it into punching power. So that might not be the best way for Gregory to catch up.
And Gregory's going to go ahead and reverse his way out of here. Use that one house he has to refill his magic charges, and down to the lower depths of the volcano he goes. Elastoid, moment of truth coming. Will it be the 16 chests in Ice Cave, the 24 chests in Earth Cave? We're going to go sail around back and forth to pick up some key lock chests, which might even put him into a marsh dive, because there are 3 chests down there. First off, though, we're going to pick up some gold bracelets at 24K apiece.
Yeah, having completely cleared out the volcano and taking all of the fights on the way down, Elastoid is filthy rich, and you can even throw that iron armor out if you want to, but he's gonna go for it. All right. Although I would definitely prefer seeing some steel armor in this place, but I guess a gold bracelet will do in a pinch.
And don't leave Crescent Lake without refilling the housing market. So he's taking care of that for save items. This vanilla flag set is definitely a little bit slower than some of the other seeds we have been running in the community lately, by dint of really just having the ship for as long as we do. For the last year or so, in the tournaments we've been running, it's been pretty popular to find floater somewhere on the southern continent and not have to sail around back and forth. I got to tell you, Edge, I like flags like this because I think that encounter manipulation and being able to get yourself across the overworld safely and correctly comes into play. I think there's a lot of skill involved in that.
Yeah, there definitely is, and avoiding unnecessary encounters helps you save a ton of time. But it also makes a difference in routing as well, and the decisions that you make there. Do I collect 1 or 2 key items, or do I knock this quest out first before that quest? It makes a big difference.
And there's a 30-plus-year-old surprise reveal as the kindly old lonely king in the Northwest Castle is secretly Astos, evil dwarf who dies to nukes to the face. Picks up a crystal from the king there, so it looks like Elastoid is committing to the Mystic Key shuffle check now with all of those chests.
Well, he could still sail up to Melmond and do the ruby check and work that in together, but doesn't seem to be too interested in it. He's gonna knock this out, right?
So we're 30 minutes in to this relatively vanilla Final Fantasy Randomizer seed that these 2 runners are encountering. With the NPCs giving vanilla items, we were first searching for the TNT, and the TNT was being held by Matoya. That unlocked the Inner Sea once you picked up the ship. Next progression, though, after that is a little bit muddy. We found the crown and the ruby in Volcano, but nothing else. And so Elastoid is going to go ahead and cash that crown in for the key at this point, as Gregory Puff picks up his own crown. And then we will see where we go after that.
Oh, Elastoid forgets that he has the canoe, takes a long way around the river, but...
I do that all the time.
Yeah. But is about to crack open a large amount of chests, so we'll see if there are any loose progression items in there.
A little bit of a moment of truth here for Gregory Puff, depending on how the progression items shook out here. This checking the Red Dragon chest to grab the ruby is not a gimme. It's a relatively out of the way chest, and so we'll have to see whether or not Gregory Puff takes the time to do that or gambles on skipping that chest.
The Red Dragon chest is one of those chests that you would likely skip if you feel like you're running low on resources. So all depends on how Gregglypuff has been managing the spell charges. Chipping away at this Agama with Lit 2.
So the first 4 chests here in the Elfland mini armory yields nothing but a heal helmet and a little bit of pocket change for Elastoid. And so that's the first of several places Elastoid can go now to check free chests. Caneria, Dwarf Cave, right side Temple of Fiends, Northwest Castle, and Marsh Cave still also in play now. We are going to check the 6 chests now here in Caneria. Find a black shirt, that'll cast Ice 2. Some cabin, a little bit of money. There's a Kashtana, house, and a short sword. I don't believe either of our runners are working with thieves this evening. Thieves, the katanas with weapon fixes on, are become pretty nice weapons to wield.
And Elastoid's just going to reset that out, so does not care too much for your black shirt, and looks like he has no intention of checking the Temple of Fiends check.
All right, so that leaves Dwarf Cave, Temple of Fiends right side, Marsh Cave he's sailing away from as we speak. That'll be in the back of your mind, though. That'll tickle in the back of your head whether or not you needed to go there. So we'll see whether or not Elastoid succumbs to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the top of Earth too.
Gregglypuff, meanwhile, working on a little bit of an Agama grind here.
Hey, we found a great axe. Wow, it's
in an iron gauntlet.
It's a giant pile of junk so far. Where is Elastoid headed? Is he gonna do Marsh? Now he has the key.
It does look like it. Looks like Marsh Cave is next stop for Elastoid. Meanwhile, Gregglypuff still working on his Agama grind. Gregglypuff rolling into Volcano here, already having done Marsh Cave, has that power balk. So he's working probably on getting his black belt up to snuff a little bit so that the black belt hits a little stronger when he goes to fight Carrie. Elastoid puts his fighter back at the top of the party and is going to go ahead and dive the bottom of Marsh Cave first. We know the power bonk is hiding at the top of Marsh Cave. And so that'll be interesting to see whether or not Elastoid decides to take a peek up there. What we don't know is the identity of the key lock chests down here. So we will have to take a look at that. I see some other regulars of Final Fantasy starting to wander into the chat room. Hello to Farron, and hello to Will Cleosis. Thanks for joining us this evening. And thanks to all of you for watching tonight, Final Fantasy Randomizer Highlander Tournament. We're in the opening stages of this tournament, and so it is going to be a long-winded, long-running tournament over the course of the next several weeks. Into the next couple months at the very least. And so if you like this type of Final Fantasy action, we're going to be bringing it to you relatively regularly over the course of the spring and into the summer. And we're down to one Light Warrior now on Gregglypuff's side as we do a good old classic Agama grind for 4,200 XP per Agama.
And, well, this is, like I said, this is the time sink that you see, and it's not it's not getting to 21 that's the problem. It's getting to 32 and 42, and we'll see where Grigglypuff decides to stop.
Elastoid pulls an opal bracelet out of the first key lock chest. Not the progression item you're looking for, but also nothing to sniff at there.
Yeah, that's not so bad. Best mage armor in the game. So, the fighter gets stun touch.
Marsh Cave being Marsh Cave. So, Edge, if you're doing an Agama grind, remind everybody what's the target here for for relatively vanilla stats.
So your breakpoints are 21, 32, and 42 respectively, and those are when you get an extra 2 hits. The damage really scales with each of those breakpoints. As you can see now that Grigglypuff has hit 21, he's starting to one-hit the Agamas pretty regularly. 8 hits at 32, 10 hits at 42. I would dare say that, 42 is definitely excessive with these, and 32 is going to make Temple of Fiends pretty much a breeze. The only problem I see Gregory having is taking a lot of damage from large mobs like the Lobsters and Sea Shrine, but he's got Cure 4 to mitigate that, so as long as he keeps that White Mage alive, he'll be fine.
Is there anything here in Volcano that can ruin a grind at this point with vanilla spells and skills?
Not really. The scarier thing is normally like anything that could possibly have paralysis touch, death touch, stone touch, but with vanilla enemies and the magic resist that you have on the black belt, you should be in good shape. Yeah, Artea also making a good point. Water floor, waters are going to be brutal in Topher. He's going to have to definitely burn a couple of Cure 4s getting through.
Meanwhile, Elastoid opened up the last keylock chests and did not find the telltale progression items that we are looking for. Floater is really what our runners are seeking at this point. Marsh Cave, not the answer here. Now the question for Elastoid is, does he go topside and find the power bonk or not? But that progression item, that floater, remaining elusive here 42 minutes into this match.
Of note, Gregory is almost out of heal potions, so he definitely needs to save some of these for the carry fight. Because the absorb of the black belt definitely leaves something to be desired.
Elastoid not resetting out of the bottom of Marsh Cave, wants to keep something he found down here, might be that opal bracelet, but found it something enough in order to go ahead and try to run all of this back out.
Yeah, opal bracelet and Zeus gauntlet both down there. I don't know. I think it would be worth resetting out, especially because we're running vanilla stats, but Elastoid likes what he sees, and he's gonna carry all of that gear. Grigglypuff almost at 32, so just a few Agamas away. If he gets good turn order, he should come out of this with just enough healing to take out Carrot.
Elastoid electing to not save. I don't believe he went outside to save, and so he's heading topside immediately. Taking on the lovely enemies of Marsh Cave.
Well, he's gonna find that power gauntlet, so it won't burn him to to not be able to reset out of this. And he's already pulled the heal staff out from his trip downstairs through the link chest.
There's the power bonk. So he has found that and picked that up. It's a nice consolation prize for not finding the floater you were looking for. And look at this, Edgeworth. He finds the power bonk and says, "No thank you, I'm done here." And off he goes.
Yeah, so he didn't keep anything out of his marsh dive. which is kind of interesting. If you feel like you didn't find anything of value in the bottom, I feel like that's the point when you reset and then go check top.
Yeah, ran right by the exit. So he had the opportunity to save what he had found down on the bottom side if he wanted to. Elected not to do it. Went top side, found the power bonk, and elected not to keep that either. And so off he goes. He's going to play for speed. Probably, feeling a little bit unhappy with his decision to try to dive marsh. We're going to go now and cash in the ruby and grab the rod next.
Grigglypuff is dangerously low on health, and I don't quite know what he's going for. He does not have enough heal potions to really sustain this. He should have gone at 32, I think. So, at this point, if he gets the first turn on carry, that's definitely a pretty big punch. But, yeah, 300 health, it's definitely a little scary, especially if you run into red giants or fire elementals on the way down.
Also of note, he is not going to find the ruby here unless he comes back later to take on that red dragon. He does get the first punch off. Wow, 8 hits, 752 damage, and so RNG friendly to Grigglypuff. Cool as a cucumber, just like he planned it. And he's through the volcano.
So yeah, there's the grind in the books, but like you said, no ruby. So if Floater ends up deep in Earth, this is gonna be very, very painful for Gregley.
So Elastoid will give us that answer here shortly, because he is going to pick up his rod, which indicates to me at least that he's looking at an Earth dive next. Grigglypuff now gets to make the same set of decisions that Elastoid did. The only chests that Elastoid did not check that are key locked that he can reach at this point were the 3 chests at the right side of Temple of Fiends. And so we need to keep those 3 chests in the back of our minds as well.
Alright, Elastoid is going to get the rod, and, even if this does come up empty for Elastoid, he's still making progress towards the goal, so I don't mind this one bit.
Titan was also hiding a set of Opal armor. Opal armor will be very nice for Elastoid if and when he class changes to put that on his knight.
Yep, just as strong as the dragon armor, but without the benefit of fire and ice resistance. But if you have a ribbon on the fighter, it doesn't really matter.
Speaking of ribbons, we have also not seen yet in this seed, and we've been opening quite a few chests. None of those 3 all-important ribbons have been cited yet either. And hello to chat to Final Fantasy. You are watching Final Fantasy. Maybe it's a game you've heard of.
Back to Crescent Lake for Gregley, and back to picking up gold bracelets for the very, very mage-heavy party. So, definitely going to get a lot of mileage out of that.
Elastoid picking up the Vorpal Sword immediately resets out. Good boy, Elastoid. Vorpal Sword with weapon fixes on as opposed to off. I hesitate to ask you this, Edge. Do you want to give us a little bit of a breakdown of what the Vorpal Sword does between the 2 settings, on or off?
So the Vorpal Sword hits about as hard as a Bane Sword normally, and that's something that you typically wouldn't be excited about, but it also has, I think, a roughly 30% crit rate. So it's very good at chipping through monsters that have a lot of absorb. With vanilla stats, I don't know, I would definitely favor the Excal or the Masmian if available. But when you start getting into higher and higher stats, the Vorpal becomes more and more reasonable of a play. And it's also not a bad item to put on a secondary character that's going to be dealing damage. So if you have a thief or a red mage that's out of spell charges, they can get some decent chip damage in as well.
So we're watching Gregglypuff go ahead and do what Elastoid did a few minutes ago. He's going to go ahead and take on Astos next. Astos should be no match for a black belt punching for 833 damage in this instance.
Yeah, and Gregory's just gonna wind up and punch him for 800 damage. So no big deal. There's this there's just a bloody spot on the floor where there used to be a dark elf prince. No deal.
Elastoid starting to dig out Earth Cave. 24 chests here. 8 of those are rod locked, but Elastoid does have the rod that was given to him by Sarda. So he can full clear this dungeon, and there's a fiend down at the end of it. So this play makes a lot of sense to me because you're looking for progression and you need to be here anyways. Picks up a Sun Sword. Sun Sword is nice to find at this stage.
Well, not only a Sun Sword, but an Aegis Shield. So that is the best weapon that we've seen so far, and with all of the with all the temper charges available, should be pretty easy to take out the final boss with just the Sun Sword. So looking pretty good equipment wise for Elastoid.
I see a discussion in chat from probably old people just like us, reminiscing about Final Fantasy I and manuals with paper. For those of you that were born in the late 20th or early 21st century, manuals were paper documents that were included with video games that gave you instructions on how to play the game. Those died out about 10 years ago. Yes, we're old.
Well, I mean, what's the point of having a manual when a game forces you to sit through 5 hours of tutorial anyway, right?
But how would I know what the A button does without the game telling me? Elastoid meeting the bats and their wonderful trick of getting in your way. He's going to check these right side chests over here. This is one of the downsides of having to dig out Earth Cave, especially this floor here. The chests are just so extremely spread out, and there's all sorts of unpleasant things down here. Packs of wizards leap to mind.
Especially this this chest too. It just, God, it feels like you give up 3 encounters just to open it, but I mean, you're looking for the floater, you can't really leave it behind. Another question in chat, what are the flags they are playing? So, to go over the list again, we have vanilla enemies with 2.5 experience, spell level shuffle, weapon fixes are on, the parties are open, and the map is vanilla, so is the goal. And the map being vanilla is interesting because that definitely limits the places the floater could be hanging out. With the there is no way a loose Oxiel is going to help you out, much like a loose chime or cube will not help you out either. So.
Gregglypuff now checking out the key lock chests here in Caneria. We should keep an eye on his screen on the right-hand side to see whether or not he chances taking a peek onto the right side of Temple of Fiends Revisited. That's a place Elastoid did not go with the key. Everybody say hello to the vampire.
Vampire saying I used to be a mini boss until I was bullied by randomizer players. I definitely enjoy some of the changes Elastoid has made in the older ROMs. And there's a stoned old man, so ribbons aren't gonna help you with that.
Yeah, looking back on these vanilla enemies, the game really gave no quarter throughout throughout the whole thing. We have not yet been to either the glorious Ice Cave or Ordeals, where even in Randomizer, if you're playing with vanilla enemies, you get to deal with fun things like Death Touch sorcerers waiting to greet you.
And then like 6 or 7 packs of Gargoyles and Ordeals. Not so fun.
It's almost as if they're avoiding them. I can't understand why. So, Sariad asks in chat that this is a pretty cool race. Thank you. We think so too. But can someone link or explain the different parties? Elastoid on your... Well, let's do Greggly Puff on the right-hand side because that's easier to explain. Greggly Puff is using the original sprites in the game, and so that's a black belt. I believe he has one of each mage. A red mage, a white mage, and a black mage. Respectively. Elastoid is using a set of custom sprites, and so his top party character is a fighter, and then he has a red mage in the middle of the party and a black mage at the bottom of the party. I will no doubt be telling people that throughout the rest of the seed as well. Find a ribbon pickup.
Definitely not going to turn that down, but that is not the progression lock that you would like to see. And Greggly Puff is, I don't know, what is the sailing equivalent of donuts in a parking lot? Because that's what he just...
Tacking, I think.
Yeah, so Ruby not being required is definitely a saving grace for Greggly, but he has to still dig out a lot of chests.
Yeah, Greggly Puff is going to be able to go ahead and pick up that rod from Sarda once he finds the floater. He can skip over the Titan. It's not required this seed.
So yeah, looking like ice or deals, so place your bets, everyone.
Yeah, I hesitate to even ask you, with party composition, do either of our runners have a advantage going to either ice or ordeals at this point?
Well, Greggly Puff does have a black belt with a huge amount of magic resistance, so I would say it's definitely in his favor, but Elastoid's not too far off either and has 2 new casters that are pretty decent levels, so we'll see as soon as Elastoid just shoves these bats out of the way how this shakes out.
And we have Death making an appearance on the Elastoid side on the left. Of course, that's normally Lich, the Fiend of Earth, but Elastoid can't leave well enough alone. And so Zar hits Death for a whole bunch of damage, and down goes that Fiend to light his second orb. So that is 2 progression items now that have trolled and not yielded the floater he seeked. Greggly Puff sailing and in little trot areas of the river system here.
Yeah, and another question in chat. The difference in party composition, I feel like a lot of the time comes down to the sort of how tolerant of risk does each runner feel. Greggly Puff running the more traditional route, I don't know, definitely feels safer in some instances, but could come back and bite him on time. Whereas Elastoid running with a more aggressive party of 1 fighter and 2 casters might save some time, especially in the leveling department.
In for a penny, in for a pound now for Elastoid. He is going to check the right side Temple of Fiends after doing all of that other work. He cannot let these 3 chests go and is going to go ahead and double down looking for that floater.
Definitely does not want to go into Ice Cave or Ordeals, and it shows. Neither runner wanted to go.
Greggly Puff's poison of choice is Ice Cave, now down into the 3rd and 4th levels. Oh boy, you get to go deal with the mages. Oh, and here they are, appearing a little early.
Yeah, and of note as well is the fact that they they do not have warp or exit, I believe. So they're gonna have to do this the long way, the vanilla way.
So Grugglypuff gets through 2 mage encounters, now into a pack of images and raids. Elastoid sailing in the direction of Provoca, and we'll go ahead and tackle Ice Cave from this direction.
Yeah, and you really have to take most of the groups out in here. A 9-pack with Paralysis Touch is going to wreak havoc on you unless you have pretty high levels across the board. And the Frost Dragons with Blizzard, Sorcerers with Trance and Death Touch. None of it is good.
But it's good for us, the viewers, because we get to watch these runners navigate the ice cave of your nightmares, just like you remember it 30 plus years ago. Grugglypuff using those early nuke charges to good effect here to go ahead and burn down these enemy packs. He's now down to the lower side of Ice Cave. He has to remember that, well, they're the Frost Dragons with Blizzard, but also that he's going to have to get through this twice.
And another question in chat, do the runners know their opponent's party? They do not, and that is kind of the secret information. So I think Elastoid would feel a lot better about his chances if he knew that Grugglypuff had to grind up a black belt. But after checking Martian and not getting anything out of it, he probably feels pretty bad. So that can definitely make a difference in decision making of each runner, kind of where they feel they are with respect to their opponent, who they can't see.
Frost Wolves now with Frost on Grugglypuff's side, and you can also tell, Edge, from where we stand at this point, that this is rubber banded back in toward Grugglypuff's favor, because he has not had to full clear Earth Cave or check other places yet. If Floater, wow, there it is. Lo and behold, Floater is here, and so that's the progression item that these runners have been looking for.
Yeah, also to keep in mind, though, Elastoid has cleared Earth, where Grugglypuff only has a single... and 2 party members that get rubbed, too. But only has a single orb lit, so... Earth has got to be pretty quick for Greggly, but that's still an advantage in Elastoid's side.
Yeah, advantage for Gruggly, though, that he has a level 37 black belt that he took the time to go ahead and grind as well. So, assuming he finds the other progression items he needs in a pretty quick fashion, he is really he's more ready to go for the end of the game at this point.
Question in chat: is there a 1-ribbon limit? There are 3 total that are shuffled among all of the chests in here. So, possibility of hitting 3. Will Cleos is also pointing out that Grugglypuff has a charge of exit, so that's going to save him quite a bit of time. He's going to miss the second cycle going through here.
And Elastoid just went and took the warp there. I think he checked the left side first. I don't think he left that chest unchecked. Ooh, oh boy, maybe not. He just reset way back out of Ice Cave. Boy, I don't know if he meant to do that or not.
Well, he's got to go back in, which is definitely the right decision. But he did not check that left chest. I don't know. That's definitely something that I would try to avoid doing. Grugglypuff, meanwhile, is out with the floater, and probably feels pretty good about it.
So back in to Ice Cave, Elastoid has to go. He's checked a couple chests there, but bit of a unfortunate break there for him. Grugglypuff is going to go ahead and take that floater and go ahead and move to the third act of the game now that the floater's been found. And he is on a roll at this point.
Oh yeah, there's Stone Touch in here too, lest I forget, and that is the last soft potion for Elastoid. So I'd be very tempted to reset just to save that, but he's going to keep going.
So our first runner is in the air 1 hour, 5 minutes in, and he immediately lands into some mountains. We'll get used to flying here shortly as we go ahead and check Gaia next. And no sign of a bottle here, so there's only a couple of places left that vendor item bottle could be hiding at this point. And so Greggly Puff will go ahead and take a peek at that next.
It's, given everything else has been vanilla so far, it's probably in the caravan spot.
Lo and behold. So Elastoid is working his way back down to the left side of this chest with this floor with all the holes in it, so that he can make sure that he knows what that chest is. Greggly Puff is going to go ahead and pop the bottle here, release a tiny fairy, and go ahead and pick up his Oxy Ale.
Oh, making pretty good progress so far. Elastoid still slogging through Ice Cave right about now.
So for gear, Greggly Puff has a level 37 black belt. We can't forget that. No ribbons yet to speak of. So that's to his detriment. That's something he's going to want to look for here before he tries to challenge the end game. We're going to dig out Cardia now to see whether or not we have any items of interest here. Defense sword pickup. That's very nice for Greggly Puff.
Yeah, considering that, the magic is kind of not the black belt specialty, being able to cast ruse is going to help out a lot, especially against, large octopus type bosses.
Or do we have octopus type bosses in this game? I wasn't aware.
I'm sure they're around somewhere. And Elastoid doing a little bit of frustrated pacing in front of the floater chest. Back to the angry dome. Question in chat, does bottle only get shuffled when the other flag is set for incentivized items? I believe so. And another question in chat, are there any good resources out there for changing party sprites? I don't know that offhand, but if you join the FFR Discord, you can talk to a lot of the runners like Elastoid and Tarlin who have done extensive sprite edits, and they'll certainly be able to help you out.
Greggly Puff did find his first ribbon in Cardia, and so that is a very, very nice find for him, and probably one of the key things he was looking for to go ahead and feel more comfortable about finishing this off. Cardia has been plundered, and so off we go next up to the waterfall to see what we have there.
Ribbon will be definitely nice when Tiamat decides to cast Bane. But I think a lot of the instant death stuff is kind of buried deep in the other Fiend's repertoires, so you should be able to get away with having that ribbon on one of the other characters for quite a few of the fights.
Yeah, you definitely do want that ribbon for the Tiamat fight. I blundered really into Tiamat 1 in my first Highlander Tournament game against X Ice Blue with no ribbons into Tiamat and took a Blizzard to the face, Poison to the face, Blaze to the face. I'd forgotten that Tiamat had all of those spells, their skills in vanilla.
Yeah, on the one hand, the skills certainly seem nastier on the fiends, but on the other hand, at least you know they're coming, so kind of feels a little awkward. Elastoid is got the floater and running back to the ship because that's right, the open extended progression is not on, so the ice cave and the volcano river paths are not linked.
Yeah, to add insult to injury here, he has to take the ship, sail out of the inner sea, back to the outer sea, in order to cash in that floater. Robot gives the cube. That's expected. Also, a dragon armor here. Not terribly useful for Gregglypuff. Elastoid will be very happy to see that.
Elastoid will be very happy to see that if he ever finds the tail, which seems to be very elusive right now.
And welcome to everybody watching in Speed Gaming 2 land. Thanks for hanging out with us as we play Final Fantasy Randomizer. I see Ashes of Aaron in chat saying that they had Glance Imps on their last rando. Congratulations, you're one of us now. Also, our dev team is starting to pop up in chat a little bit too. Hello to Nitz. Nitz has been in his compatriots have been working very hard on a refresh of the Final Fantasy Randomizer website. Wait until you see what they have in store for us. You're going to think you've been warped back to I don't know, 1998 or so with their web redesign. It's pretty awesome.
So, interestingly, there is level 7 life as well, and you really cannot have too many life charges, so Greggly's going to pick up another cast of that.
Elastoid takes to the air at 1 hour 12 minutes, so that's about 7 minutes behind where Gregglypuff picked up the floater, and so that is the difference so far between our two runners. Now we will have to see down the stretch whether or not Gregglypuff is able to keep that lead open, or whether or not Elastoid with his 3-man party is able to close this.
Yeah, and right now Gregglypuff is missing the rod in the slab to finish out. The tail is one of those nice to have but not required items in a black belt focused party.
So we're going to check the reverse C room. This is locked by the Mystic Key, and it yields the Bane Sword in this seed, which is a nice pickup to find.
Yeah, not too bad. Gives the White Mage something to do in the Tiamat fight.
So Gregglypuff is rolling his way towards the mermaids, and we will see whether or not he finds any of those 2 progression items that are required there. We are kind of running out of places for them to be hiding. I guess we could go visit the entertainment that is Ordeals, just in case we didn't get enough Stun Touch or Death Touch Sorcerers.
It would be crazy if there was a required item in Ordeals, though. Because that would definitely be a lot of full clearing on the sides of both runners.
That's the second ribbon now for Elastoid. Gregglypuff reaches the mermaid floor, and first chest in is the slab, so that's one of the required items that he was looking for.
So we've had Slab and Sea Shrine, and he's gonna look and see what else he needs. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, what am I missing?
You're missing the rod, and it's said Sarda. You're done.
Okay.
Yeah, he's through checking chests. Just gonna go right for it now. So yeah, Slavent Mermaids, Floater, and Ice Cave. Nice conventional seed.
It's really vanilla, like Midwest, North, like upper Midwest vanilla here.
Yeah, I don't know what the Blind Witch was doing with dynamite, but we've safely diffused that situation. Yeah, Elastoid right behind too. We'll see if he goes left or right first.
So Elastoid still needs to do a quick dive of the waterfall. That is one place he has not been, and it looks like he's going to go ahead and take care of that first. So we're now rolling towards the Kraken fight for you octopi lovers out there. Edgeworth, with Gregory Puff's party the way it is right now, he's got a level 37 black belt. That's good. Any concerns with how this encounter is going to play out for him?
It really depends on if the fiends get punch happy, because with the black belt of that level in the HP pool, you're not really concerned about spells. You're more concerned about Kraken punching you in the face, Tiamat punching you in the face before you can get your evasion up. And so that's going to be the big deal. Also, ambushes for mobs like this are going to be pretty unfriendly too.
Yep, even in vanilla, the lobsters are no fun to play with.
Yeah, and definitely if Gregory didn't have access to Cure 4 and Life 2, I would be very, very concerned about his ability to get through on 99 heal potions. But he should be alright.
So Gregory Puff sets up for his encounter with Kraken, healing up now with those heal pots to get himself ready to go. He's going to put the black belt, his damage dealer, in the third slot, yielding the white mage to Kraken. And we know that Krakens and white mages do not mix.
Yeah, it's the snackerfice.
But a nuke charge and some slapping from the black belt saves the white mage for another day. That's the second orb now for Gregory Puff. This is a difference in party comp here that is not working in Elastoid's favor. Gregory Puff does have exit charges by bringing that white mage along, whereas Elastoid is going to have to run backwards out of the waterfall, and that just does not feel good ever.
Yeah, not finding warp at 6 or even learnable at 7 is that's the risk you take when you go red mage, black mage. Usually works out most of the time. Not today.
And thank you for the 3 bits from Zardia, who is suggesting how much the Vorpal should sell for in most games. It's good to have you in chat with us, sir.
I don't know. Even then, that seems like a ripoff. It's the perfectly good cat claw, just waiting to be bought.
Gregory Puff now heading toward Earth Cave. We will see if he deigns to check any chests here. He's got to be feeling pretty good about his gear, and it does look like he's going to go ahead and start skipping clusters of chests now. Elastoid makes his way out of the waterfall safely with
Gregory,
his
meanwhile,
cube.
I was going to say Gregory, meanwhile, having some bat luck, but he got out of the way.
Oh, God. Boo that man. The bats were not very friendly to Elastoid either. Elastoid had to sit there patiently while the bat decided to move down on level 5 of Earth Cave earlier. Ooh, cockatrices. Let's see if we have any stoning today. Nope.
No, not too likely when they're punching the high level black belt.
This is the other benefit that you see of a high level black belt is all of the Rurus run away. The vampire, however, is not smart enough to run away. Too late! Bye-bye.
And the vampire is now even more dead.
Undeader?
Undeadest. That's a 38 black belt.
Elastoid's going to go ahead and chance the left side of Sea Shrine first before checking the right side. This is a play or a call that I make all the time, Edge. I'm curious as to your thoughts. If you're missing a progression item and you roll into Sea Shrine, do you do left side first or right side first?
I do right side if it's more than one item. I do left side if it's only one.
Elastoid now running into some weight ghosts as Grigglypuff reaches other undead Lich.
All right, black belt is at 39, and that is another orb down for Gregory. And yeah, that is definitely Elastoid's lead there is vanishing quickly.
Yeah, especially in orbs. Grigglypuff now rumbling towards Mirage Tower and Sky Fortress next, and with a head of steam as well.
I was gonna say that is the third orb, so never mind. The lead is completely gone. Just have some slab nonsense to deal with here.
And I see Falconic joining us in chat to ask yet again what is the class legend that we are seeing on the left-hand side. Elastoid today is running Fighter up at the top of the party. That is a red mage in the 3rd slot and a black mage in the 4th slot. The empty slot is empty because we don't have a sprite for empty.
I mean, it would be the pirate if Elastoid put it, but.
It could be Biggs or Wedge. I don't know. We could all give suggestions to Elastoid about what the null party member could be.
Well, I mean, if we're going with the FF4 theme, just Sid's always a good choice. Or Rosa still in bed in the desert town.
There you go. I like that one. Grigglypuff now rolling up to the Lefane, home of the Toga people, to go ahead and pick up his musical instrument, or doorbell, if you prefer. And Elastoid finds the tail hiding out here on the left side of Sea Shrine. That's something Grigglypuff did not find. Does that confer any sort of an advantage at this point, Edge?
I don't think it necessarily confers an advantage other than Elastoid, with better equipment is going to run through less healing in Topher. But with Cure 4, it shouldn't take Gregory too much time to heal up after getting punched repeatedly by all of the unrunnables in there, 4 Earths. fire
Mhm,
elemental,
mhm.
water elementals.
We have on both sides of the screen packs of enemies that I detest. We had ghosts on one side and angry red ankylos on the right side. No, thank you to both of those.
Yeah, and at this point, I think it's gonna require a wipe on Gregley's side. Probably like a 3 and 256 through a ribbon or something is really what we're looking at here.
Any chance that the gas dragons or waters could give him enough trouble to slow this down?
The gas dragons could give him trouble by kind of wiping out the rest of the party, but he would be so close to the entrance that resetting wouldn't lose him that much time. It would have to be a deep a death during a deep dive.
Something I'm not sure about that I'm going to take a peek at here later is whether or not the red mage is able to pick up a life spell. I think that's sitting at level 4, and I do not remember whether or not that life 2 spell is red mage learnable. That sort of thing comes into play because we're going to have a possibility of lich nuking, and if that takes the white mage down, then your healing is gone.
Yeah, no, it's definitely red mage learnable. It was night learnable as well, so.
Ah, got it. And we have, okay, on the Elastoid side, Honda is joining us, which is appropriate for punching.
And yeah, down goes the black mage. So as Krakens tend to do, 8 hits for a lot of damage.
And this fight is starting to get a little scary for Elastoid now. The fighter is down on one knee. For another 256 damage, down goes the fighter. And here comes a timely Ice 3 charge from Greg the Red Mage to save Elastoid out of this encounter and get that third orblet. That was going scarily quickly.
And it looks like Elastoid is gonna go promote, and if he tries to, if he's going for, yeah, he's gonna leave the slab behind. I don't quite know what he's going for here, but this is not gonna end well.
No, it's not. It's going to go ahead and maybe get some resources here in Gaia. He already has been here once. Gregleypuff finding the Bridge of Destiny, and lo and behold, there's Warmac, everyone, and Warmac immediately takes a bite out of the Black Mage, and down he goes. Gregley's going to think about whether or not he wants to try to take this encounter on. He's going to start the white shirt up. Down goes the Red Mage now. That's 2 critical hits from the Black Belt. Got about 400 damage out of it. We're going to go ahead and swing again. That's 200 damage now on the Black Belt. Warmac is punching away here. Go down now to a 4th level of encounters. White Mage casts that white shirt. There goes another punch. There's the result that Gregleypuff was looking for. 7 hits for 783 damage. And that Black Mage is now up to level 42. That's got to feel really, really good for Gregleypuff. And he's got casts of life, too, to bring his party back up.
Yeah, he is just going to steamroll Temple of Fiends right now. So didn't really need the experience, but sure not going to turn it down.
And so now we get ready for the Tiamat encounter. Remember that Tiamat here is vanilla, so we're looking for Banes. We're looking for things like Thunders, Blazes, Blizzards coming out of Tiamat. The White Mage goes to the top of the party to go ahead and give that white shirt some activity. Out comes Thunder for Tiamat. We have 9 hits for 602 damage, and a Brack cast from Owen is going to be ineffective. Bane also ineffective, but Tiamat is already reeling after 1 punch. So we go now to the second encounter set. Bane comes out again, and it's Poison Smoke terminated. Gregleypuff has all 4 orbs lit and is on a steamroll now down into Temple of Fiends Revisited.
So look out, Chaos. Here's a 42 black belt with fairly vanilla enemies. So this is gonna go pretty quick.
He's got to feel
Really, go ahead.
I was got to say he's got to feel really good about how this seed has gone. It's been pretty cut and dry for him. I think Elastoid's going to have some choice words for this seed. But for Gregley, this has gone pretty by the book for him.
Yeah, Elastoid behind primarily from that mishap in Ice Cave, and that is it's a pretty sizable grind by Gregley down in the volcano as well. So it was pretty close coming into Ice Cave, but it's all been Gregley Puff from that point on.
So we're doing a reset here, and Gregley Puff is on his way to Temple of Fiends Revisited. We're going to call it 1 hour and just shy of 31 minutes is when he will enter the last dungeon of the game. And do you want to explain there, Edge, what Gregley was doing there?
So Gregley is burning off one of his save items completely in order to move the heal potions into the lower left slot. That allows him to, menu a lot more efficiently than normal. And hey, that's a nice hero run against those frost dragons.
Also, the bad men come out to play, and he gets a strike first on those. Here come the gas dragons. This is one of those unrunnable encounters that you have here in vanilla. They are going to cast poison. You can see it there. Now we just get to see whether or not his mages can counter all of this. And we lose the white and the black mage before the red mage can get that nuke cast out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's a high roll on the gas dragon that the black belt was punching. So this might be one of those resets, but he's going to burn through a lot in the way of resources just off of this fight alone.
It was 7 hits for a bunch of ones. I believe I saw 1,111 damage from the black belt. So the black belt is doing what black belts do once they get to high levels. And it does look like he's going to go ahead and continue on here.
Yep, out come the Cure 4s, and there is the Phantom getting poked in the eye for 759 damage. Question in chat, vanilla enemies? Yep.
Yeah, Future Sight, in the Highlander Tournament, the 2 runners that you see here agreed on what the flag set was going to be for the evening. Elastoid was the one that proposed the complete flag set, and then Gregley Puff had an opportunity to veto one of the selections and transpose his own selection for that. But they both agreed on this flag set, which is vanilla enemies and vanilla bosses, vanilla map, and a vanilla end goal. The things that are different is that the party composition was open, so they could choose whatever they wanted. Magic levels are shuffled, so you can find nuke at level 1. And EXP scales were up to 2.5 times normal, or 2.5x. So that's where we are as we reach Lich, and his turn 1 nuke that we are not going to see because Puff punched for 1,600 damage.
Just going to explode into a pile of bones.
I don't even think there were bones left at that point. I just think it was dust. And there are some annoying sets of enemies down here. We just ran into one. 4 fires that are unrunnable. We are going to find waters on the next floor. Those are unrunnable and can hit like a freight train when they want to.
A puff of smoke, indeed. Oh, and it looks like Gregley does not have Ice 3 on the Black Mage. Just saw the cursor moving longingly over that empty level 3.
Double nukes now as we encounter carry 2 from the white or from the black and red mage. But again, this is really the black belt show. All it takes is one swing once you get a black belt up to the high 40s that we're hanging out at now.
Yeah, and so far we've not seen a turn from any of the fiends. They've just gone down in a heap. That is the power of the black belt, but you do have to invest the time to get them there.
Gregley Puff now setting up for a 4 water encounter. We've got nuke charges and we have ice 3 charges, so he does have the resources to get through this.
Yeah, and now that he's made it through a few floors, doesn't feel like he needs to save as many life 2 charges, and is just gonna nuke and ice 3 this group.
A lot of EXP here in this encounter, but Gregley doesn't need it. Also has barely touched his heal potions at this point, so he's got to be feeling really good about this run.
Yeah, the definitely the benefit of carrying the white mage around. Lots of curative magic to use instead.
So he elects to keep the black belt up top. And that was a wise decision, because it would have taken more time to actually switch your party around. And so away goes Kraken.
All right, well, that is a third fiend that didn't get to do anything, so we'll see if the trend continues.
On to Tiamat 2 we go.
And vanilla sandworms with crack. Feels bad for Elastoid, but he's just going to 2-man this on the way up. And
Puff loses both the white and black mage to a Bane there.
Nine casts of temper in the first slot too, so no shortage of damage potential there.
There was the third punch, takes Tiamat out. So Tiamat actually got to do something, so that's a little bit of a change. We've got a couple casts of life 2 left, and so we are going to head over to Chaos's area with a full party. We're at 1 hour 37 minutes as we see the Twilight Dance party. And down to Chaos we go.
Yeah, and the Bane did come out, but no 3 and 256 shenanigans, so Gregley is in pretty good shape here.
So this will be a vanilla Chaos, which means that Nuke is in the spell list, but it's going to be a bit of a ways down before that comes into play. We also have some skills on Chaos that we need to pay attention to, but it's really about turn order and making sure that black belt gets to do its thing. And so we're set up now with the black belt in the 3rd slot, white mage sacrificial hanging out in the 1st slot. Chaos is going to open with its first spell, Ice 3. 9 hits for 646 damage is a great start for the black belt, as Invis 2 comes out to go ahead and give a little bit of evade. Crack comes out for Chaos. That's a skill. And so we've done one spell and 1 skill now for Chaos. It's 8 hits for 870 damage. Chaos is rocking back on his feet now. Probably 1 more punch will be enough to do this. Inferno almost takes the white mage out, but with 7 hits and 691 damage, that takes Chaos out. Gregley Puff with an SRL time of 1 hour, 39 minutes and 7 seconds. So he made it through Temple of Fiends Revisited in 8 minutes from beginning to end. That's a great time. GG's, get those out for Gregory Puff. Congratulations to Gregory Puff for winning this first game of this 3-game set.
Yeah, GG to Gregley. The black belt, I mean, a little bit of overkill with these flags, but from Ice Cave on, this was pretty comfortably in Gregley's corner, and looks like Elastoid has forfeited.
Yeah, but we do have a forfeit in channel from Elastoid, but it does look like he's going to go and run a little bit more. We're going to go ahead and bring Gregory Puff in.
Yeah, we're joined by Gregory Puff right now. GG.
Yeah, thank you. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right. How did that black belt grind go for you? Saw you got a little close there when it came to the heal potions you had and stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna be very sad if I had taken that grind or that wipe to carry right there. It was pretty. I was taking quite a gamble going up against her. Granted, I was pretty high levels, but I only had like about 200 hit points when I went up against her, and I know what she has. She has some spell that could have probably done some things, and I know she hits pretty hard. So good thing I got good turn order. I hit her for 600, put her down in the first hit, and then from there on, I knew kind of that things were moving forward from there. It was just all about finding that floater and finding that slab. And luckily, well, floater and slab were in their respective dungeons.
Yeah, speaking of floater, what made you decide to go for Ice Cave instead of Ordeals?
It was right there. I was in the area and I had exit. And so I was like, you know what? I'll go on ahead. There are more, while Ordeals is quicker, there are more chests than ice, and so I had the 3 plus the 2 plus the 6, and then the other 5 in the other room. So that's obviously more than Ordeals, and I was in the neighborhood, so I just went on ahead and routed that into my whole thing.
Gregory, it's Maya. GG, and congratulations on taking game 1.
Thank you.
Talk to me a little bit about your party composition. You had the world was your oyster. You had an open party, and you ended up going with a black belt and the rainbow set of mages. Do you feel comfortable with that party composition in most seats?
Not in most seats. Typically, I actually bring a thief along to make sure I can run away from battles when I need to, and I usually use white and black mage. I decided to go on ahead and switch it up to do rainbow mages, and then the original plan actually was to Dan my black belt until I was ready to grind, but that never actually ended up happening. So I just went on ahead and just kept him alive because he wouldn't die. Eventually got to the agama tile. I found the crown right in that room, and I was like, well, that's good enough. I felt pretty confident. And he wasn't killing them quite away, or he wasn't killing them quick enough at the beginning, and I just kept on ahead and just went at it until I eventually got to level 21 with him, and then he was just knocking them down left and right.
Well, I'll tell you, when you go back and watch the VOD, you did give us a little bit of drama as well when you were playing in Volcano with next to no heal potions. You skipped the red dragon chest, and the red dragon chest in this seed yielded the ruby. And at that point, we did not know whether or not that was going to lead to a rod-locked floater. And so when you finished up with your Agama grind, did you give any thought to trying to take a peek at that chest over there, or were you so concerned that you needed to try to finish it without it?
There was no way I was checking that chest. Not with the amount of hit points I had. I had like high 2s, and then I hit those red giants. One hit me. Or no, it was a gray worm, and one hit me and put me in the low 2s. There was just no way I was bothering to go through an agama tile, a red dragon tile, and then back through an agama tile again to check that chest. I mean, at that point, I had literally opened every chest I could possibly open. I was going to open every chest until I found what I needed to find, which was either the floater or the slab. And getting back down there wasn't going to be like, I don't think it would have been that big of a deal to try to get back down there.
So we're still on board here with Elastoid. Elastoid has forfeited out of this race, but is going to go ahead and finish this up for us as we see the return of Team Rocket to the screen. Greg Lee, this was Elastoid's call tonight on the flag set that he wanted to run. You didn't make a veto. Were you considering a veto, or you were pretty happy with the flag set that he proposed?
I mean, my whole thing, and well, I don't want to throw my cards out there because it's kind of like when you bluff and then you show your cards. I don't want to tell people what I don't want to see, but I was very happy with what he decided to choose for the flag set, and that's it.
Does this mean you have something up your sleeve for game 2 here when it's your turn to pick?
Not at all.
Okay.
You never know. It could potentially be the exact same flag set. You'll never. Like I said, it's like poker. You don't want to show your 2 cards because then people know how you play, and then who knows.
Elastoid bringing up his third party member to go ahead and take on Kraken Honda here, who opens with a lit 2. He's going to go ahead and fast up that knight, which will give him some additional swinging power. And here comes Quad X now as well, and this might be very timely played. Yep, here comes Quad X, and Honda is erased and terminated. That was a very nice string of events there for Elastoid as he rolls here through Temple of Fiends Revisited. Only a couple of boss fights to go, and then Elastoid will also hopefully be across the finish line here, barring any mishaps. So now we have the boss of another game here on screen as Elastoid uses fast to his advantage again. I think that Quad X was a little bit early. He's going to go ahead and give it an attempt now. Tiamat 2 with Ice 2, and there's another swing that 7 hits 131 damage. Down goes Tiamat. So Greg Lee, you're a relative newcomer, I think, to the Final Fantasy Randomizer community. You're not a newbie, but you're not an old bee either. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you found this community and how you got running with the community?
Yeah, sure. So basically what happened was I was kind of new. I wouldn't say I was new to Twitch, but I didn't stream much on Twitch. I got into Final Fantasy through a guy named Sula, who did a lot of Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy V. He would do a lot of different runs and stuff like that. And I started reading his literature, and it got me kind of back into Final Fantasy, which was a game that I played when I was a kid. Like, I remember Final Fantasy was the first game I ever played as a kid, or the first Final Fantasy game I ever played as a child. And so basically, one day I decided I was going to go on ahead and just start streaming some Final Fantasy. Well, Lord Fizzlebeef hopped into one of my chats and was like, hey, you don't know what you're missing. You need to be playing some Final Fantasy Randomizer. And I was like, all right, well, you know, I'm not like huge into... I don't know much about that randomizer stuff. You know, I'm an old man. I don't know what's happening, right? So he came back in. The second time I went on ahead and streamed me playing through Final Fantasy. He was like, no, seriously, just join the community. It's not going to hurt. You generate ROMs. It's not hard. You'll enjoy it. And sure enough, I joined the Discord, and all of a sudden I was like literally sucked into it. I was And this was back in October of last year, so I haven't been with the community that long. And sure enough, playing through some stuff, getting used to what I'm doing, getting better at what I'm doing, and then, as you can see, I'm out here racing, doing this Highlander tournament that Artea put together for us.
All right, and get out your GGs for Elastoid, finishing out with a time of 149.
GGs.
And it does look like Elastoid will be joining us here shortly. So that was an NSRL time of 1 hour and 49 minutes and 26 seconds. I know I have a whole bunch of questions for Elastoid when he joins us here. A nice finish from Elastoid from a seed that kind of went wrong for him about halfway through. And so we will go ahead and see if he's ready to come in. And we are joined in chat here now by Elastoid. Elastoid, GG's to you.
Yeah, that was a seed, wasn't it?
That was something else, wasn't it?
Yeah, as soon as I found the floater, I was like, well, I lose.
Elastoid, talk to me a little bit. Let's start at the beginning with your party composition. You elected to go with 3 men as opposed to 4, and you kept one blank. Talk to me a little bit about your thought process on the 3-man party and how you feel it went for you down the stretch.
It didn't go super well because I lost, but I don't know. I was averaging around 90 minutes a seed in this flag set. Like that, I wanted to go faster, so I subtracted a party member, going with 2 and sometimes going with 3, and my time's improved. So I figure it's probably just I'm taking too long or having some sort of decision making paralysis or what have you. So it was easier just to simplify things and go with 3 runners.
Next question I have for you, Elastoid, and Greg Lee. After Elastoid answers, I forgot to ask this question for you as well. The way that the progression items came to you, you found Crown in Volcano, and then Ruby was also in Volcano, which gives you a whole lot of different decisions that you have to make there. And we saw the 2 of you kind of do different stuff with it at that point. Elastoid, when you're in that situation, what takes priority for you? You ended up checking key chests first. You happy with that decision?
Well, in retrospect, no, but I think that key lock is going to be the correct decision more often. Take less time to check. The amount of chests that you have there versus a 16 in Ice Cave, which would be the next best thing. Unlocked ordeals. It unlocked Ice Cave. It unlocked all the key lock chests. And because I had Ruby, it unlocked all of Earth Cave as well. So I prioritized first the key locked because they were faster, and then the Earth Cave because I was going to have to go through there anyway. If I'd gone with what was nearest, which was Ice Cave, I would have been flying like 40 minutes earlier. And that might have been different, but...
Gregory, same question to you, because you were in close to the same situation. You did not find the Ruby, so that option was off the table for you. But you found the Crown in Volcano, and then you're sitting there thinking, okay, what do I do next? And you also went to go check the key lock chests.
Yeah, I mean, it like the Elastoid said, it's the obvious play. You go out there, you've got 4, 3, 6 more plus 2, like 3 more. You've got so many free chests that you can literally check, and it's going to add maybe 5-10 minutes total to your game. And that's a lot of chests. That's more chests than there are in Ice. So the original plan was Well, I've got crown. I found adamant and fire as well. So at that point, I was like, what are really the odds that there's going to be another key item in this place? Plus my low hit points finishing my Agama grind. There was no way I was checking that chest, like I said before, which is a good thing. Actually, it's not really that good of a thing. If I had seen the ruby, I probably still wouldn't have bothered doing ruby lock, checking Sarda, and doing all that stuff. I would have still probably gone on ahead, done key locked, and then head back to ice because I was in the same continent or hemisphere.
Oh man, you didn't see Ruby?
Nope. I had too low hit points. After my grind, I had no heal pots, and I had about 200-ish hit points after I was done grinding on Agamas, and I was at about level 37. And so instead of worrying about losing more hit points trying to get to that chest there, I went on ahead and just killed Carrie, and luckily I was able to kill Carrie.
Oh man, that was... Like I said, as soon as I found Floater, I knew that I was at least 10 minutes behind. My frustration, I wound up doing something stupid and forgetting about Mermaid Floor. And like,
yeah, I mean,
it didn't cost me too long, but it cost
it was
me
just
enough
crazy.
that
I mean, it was crazy that Floater and Slab were in their respective dungeons, just on different areas of the dungeon. I mean, hell, Slab was in Mermaids, just not in the right chest, and Floater was, on that floor before the Floater chest.
Yeah, it can be rough when you have, like, we found TNT in Matoya's cave, so that means immediately the whole map is open, and I'm like, don't do that to me.
Yeah, I know, trust me. And I'd played through enough of these to where I was like, you know what, I'm still going to check Marsh. I know there's only like 13 chests down there, but the last 2 seeds I practiced trying to get through this, there were 2 loose items in Marsh. So even though I'd gotten the TNT, I felt like Marsh had to at least get checked out. And luckily, Powerbonk was down there. Not that I ever used it, but it was still down there.
You got another question for us?
I was actually just gonna see if either of you had any final thoughts here as we wrap up.
I can't wait for game 2, Gregley. I'm gonna come back and get you.
Well, I'll be honest. I can't believe I squeaked out a win there. I appreciate you having us, Speed Gaming, for having us. Maya and Edgeworth, of course, for you guys doing your thing and making what me and Elastoid did, slightly entertaining. So thank you for that. Thank you, Elastoid, for putting the flags together, and we'll see what I decide to choose when I go up against you next time.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Gloves are off now, man. Gloves are off.
Well, as I said earlier, we have a whole lot of Final Fantasy Randomizer action coming your way in the next weeks and months as we work our way through this Highlander Tournament. We have our Chaos Rush Tournament also occurring in our community. That's over on our sister network, Randomania. And then coming down the pike here real fast is our 2019 Spring Tournament that's going to start up in a few weeks. Sign-ups are still open for that. And so if you're interested in joining us for that Spring Tournament, give a follow to the Discord that you see there in the chat. We'd be more than happy to get you up and running races with us so that you can participate and take part. But even if you don't want to race Final Fantasy Randomizer, absolutely still go visit FinalFantasyRandomizer.com. And you can just play around with the randomizer on your own. And all the thanks to our devs for the amazing work that they do day in and day out to give us all of this awesome entertainment and breathe some life into this awesome old game that we love to play. And so thanks for my part. Thanks for Speed Gaming and everybody in the Speed Gaming community for welcoming us and continuing to allow us to come into your homes and entertain you. I really appreciate it. as well as tracking tonight for Slick Fingers. Really appreciate that as well. That's all I've got for the evening. My name's Maya, and I will go ahead and hand it over to Edge to play us out.
That's well said, Maya. It's about all that I had to say. Just thanks to Artea for organizing and drafting this tournament rules, and thanks again to you, Maya, for reviewing them and working things out. This has been pretty interesting to watch. I've cast a couple of these races so far, and I can't wait for the rest of the tournament to see how things play out. Maya, what have we got next on Speed Gaming?
For Final Fantasy Randomizer Highlander Tournament, we do have a race coming up tomorrow night. That is going to be Ice Blue against myself. That will be at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. And we will see what Ice Blue has in store for me tomorrow. Coming up next on Speed Gaming, if you pop over to Speed Gaming 5, the Wind Waker Randomizer tournament is in full swing. And so definitely go ahead and check that out. And then absolutely take a peek at Speed Gaming's schedule because there's always something fun and cool going on that you can watch. And so we will go ahead and sign out for the evening. For Edgeworth, this is Ikman Maya, but you can just call me Maya. And thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate it.